What's going on, guys? My name is Omega and welcome back to another Apex Legends video. So in today's video, we're actually going to be taking a look at some buff concepts for the weakest legends in Apex. Now, I usually do a video like this once every season after we get all of the big changes from those patch notes. In Season 8, I think it's pretty obvious who the weakest legends are, but I wanted to ask you guys on Twitter and just get you guys your opinion on who you think the weakest legend is. Some of the responses I got are probably Loba, because you have to wait so long for the Q to land, and her passive definitely needs a buff or a rework. We also got another one here saying Rampart is the worst. Definitely Rampart. Still Rampart.
I'm not one for bragging, but I'm probably the best legend to ever set foot in these games. Probably.
So since everyone is apparently in agreement that Rampart is the weakest legend, I would probably agree with that because I don't think she's very good right now. We're going to start with some buff concepts for Rampart that I think would definitely make her a lot better. Now, as you guys know, the last change that Rampart got was first to her walls that increased the initial HP while building from 1 to 45. She also got a change to her ultimate that allows you to turn 180 degrees instead of just 120 degrees when you're using Sheila, and she was kind of also indirectly buffed by the release of the Golden Extended Magazine, which lets her run double Spitfires pretty easily without ever having to reload. Now, while these changes were nice, I don't think they're really going to have much an effect on her win rate or her pick rate in the future. Now, one idea that DJ Waki came up with on Reddit was to allow Rampart to collect more replicator materials since she is a weapons modder in the lore. As of right now, you get 25 materials, but this concept would basically allow Rampart to collect 35 materials at a time. And he also suggested that Rampart should be able to replicate materials faster than other legends. Now, I think this would be a really good addition to her kit because it might give players more of an incentive to use Rampart, especially in ranked play. Personally, I think this change should be applied to all of your teammates as well. As long as Rampart is close enough to the replicator, then I think everyone should be able to replicate items just a little bit faster. Another thing I would personally change is a decreased time it takes to completely set up her ultimate. I find by the time that her wall and her ultimate is set up and ready to go, the fight that I'm trying to get into has already just completely moved. It's also very obvious when Rampart has a Sheila setup due to that giant red laser that basically lets everyone know you have your ultimate. So those two big changes I think would definitely fix her ultimate, but in terms of her passive, her passive is a little strange in the fact that it only applies to LMGs. We only have 3 LMGs currently in the game right now. I think a good change to her passive that wouldn't just completely break Rampart is to allow her passive to also apply to snipers. I think this would make a lot of sense because we know that Rampart is a defensive legend. She's really good when she's set up with an LMG, but I also think it could make her a lot better if she was able to also reload snipers faster. Maybe you could even have with the Sentinel, she's able to charge it up a little bit more when you have 2 shield cells. There's a lot of different stuff that you could do with Rampart, and I'm just really excited to see where they're actually going to take these changes in the future. Now, next up, I want to talk about Octane because I don't really think he is necessarily the weakest. He got a couple of buffs in the past couple of months that really, kind of put him from like a bottom tier legend to, I think he's like sort of lower middle tier right now. The last 2 big changes Octane got was a double healing for his passive. His old passive, he got 0.5 HP per second, which was later changed to 1 HP per second. He also had a change to his jump pad that basically allowed you to jump higher if you just ran onto the jump pad, or you could jump farther if you slid into the jump pad. Now, both of these changes have definitely helped Octane's kit in the past, but I don't think that we can say he's complete by any means. One Reddit user by the name of ToadR came up with a really cool buff concept for Octane's jump pad that I definitely think could be a really good addition to the game. His idea is basically to be able to rig your jump pad with a grenade in order to set traps for the enemy. He explained that when your ultimate is charged, you'll get the prompt to rig to blow, which requires a grenade in your inventory. When rigging the jump pad, you'll lose 1 grenade from your inventory, but will be able to place down a rigged jump pad that you and your teammates can freely use. However, if an enemy steps onto the rigged jump pad, it gets blown up in the process, dealing damage to the player while also giving them that regular jump boost. He also added that this fits Octane's character, as we know he blew up his own legs from the lore. This change would also allow Octane to damage an enemy if they tried to pursue on his jump pad, in the same way that it could also discourage pursuing Octane if he tries to run away. Finally, he mentions that this adds more utility to his jump pad, as you can throw a rigged jump pad onto an enemy or block doors more effectively. I could definitely see this concept being added in some way, but they would have to make a rigged jump pad a little more obvious, so if you are paying attention, you can just ignore it. You don't want to make it something like where it's totally hidden and you have absolutely no idea which jump pads are rigged or not. Another Reddit user posted a comment saying having a grenade icon painted in the center of a rigged jump pad would help to allow enemies to figure out if this is a real jump pad or a rigged one. This change would allow him and his teammates to freely escape fights, and it would make enemies question whether it's worth actually chasing them or not. Now, next up, we're going to talk about Crypto, because I think Crypto is a really good legend. You know, if you're playing with a full squad who are all communicating with each other and everyone has headsets or microphones, but Crypto in solo queue games is a completely different story. The problem that I see with him is that he basically has to remove himself from a fight whenever he wants to enter his drone. Crypto also has to be far away enough from the fight so that he doesn't get hit by his own EMP, which leaves your teammates to either push the enemy in a 2v3 battle or to wait for Crypto to come out of his drone, which usually gives the enemy enough time to heal up their shields. Now, I think a great change to Crypto would be to allow him to engage fights better without removing himself completely from them. One Reddit user named Spooky Gamer came up with a really good concept that would allow Crypto to throw his drone to a specific location without him having to control it himself. This change would be huge for Crypto, as he could effectively tell the drone to go to a specific area, activate his ult, and then be right in the action as soon as the EMP goes off. It would also diversify the 3 recon legends that we currently have a little bit better, since in my opinion, I do think that Pathfinder and Bloodhound have much more offensive potential and better kits compared to Crypto. Now, next up, we're going to talk about Revenant, because Revenant is a legend that is in a pretty good spot, but we've heard from Daniel Klein from Respawn that they're looking for a way to buff Revenant without making him more frustrating to play against. Now, I think the first change that Revenant really needs is a decreased size to his hitbox, since he does have the 3rd largest hitbox in the game next to both Gibraltar and Caustic, but does not have Fortified like they do. I also think his climbing speed should be increased, as well as the maximum height that he can climb. There are many buildings on both World's Edge and Olympus that Revenant can only partially scale. This ability used to be, pretty unique up until Season 7 with the release of Horizon, where Horizon was able to use her gravity lift to bring herself and her team up to any high point on the map. Meanwhile, it takes Revenant basically an eternity to be able to climb to the point that Horizon or team can reach in seconds. Another cool idea came from a Reddit user known as Trakifo. I think I pronounced that right, but I'm not sure. But he made a post saying, I wish Revenant's passive was reworked a bit so that he could do more creepy stuff like hang off of ceilings to surprise attack people, or that he could stick to a wall mid-climb. Now, wall hanging is something that you could actually do in Titanfall 2, but because of how fast-paced the movement was, it didn't have as good potential as it would probably have in a slower-paced game such as Apex. Now, the last couple of legends that I'm going to talk about are ones that I don't think need a ton of buffs, but these are just maybe like 1 or 2 suggestions that would definitely improve that legend in the future. Starting with Loba, I think a really good idea to her kit would be to allow her to take materials from her Black Market Boutique, as well as to be able to grab teammates' banners from her ultimate. We already know Respawn is also currently reducing the animation time for her teleport, so I think with all these changes combined, it would really make Loba a top tier legend. Now, Mirage got a bunch of updates in the past. His most recent update was the fact that Mirage's decoys now have footstep sounds, which definitely makes it a lot more harder to identify the real Mirage from a decoy. Now, I don't think Mirage is in a horrible position right now, but I would like to see his decoys be able to go across zip lines or up balloons in the future, just to make them a little bit more realistic. Bangalore is another legend who I could also see some potential buffs for, specifically for her smoke. As of right now, the only utility for her smoke is to either escape from an enemy or to revive a teammate while being hidden. One change that I could see Bangalore getting in the future is to be able to extinguish fire using her smoke. This was actually a suggestion that many people have been a fan of for a while, even before Fuse was announced as a legend for Season 8. I don't think you should be able to stop burn damage while using her smoke. Rather, the smoke would dissipate some of the fire so that your team could walk through it. And then finally, we're going to talk about Wattson, because despite Wattson, being a very good legend and having a very high win rate, especially in like Diamond, Master, and Predator tiers, I think Wattson has an issue of not really being that fun to play, especially if you're someone who's just not that great at the game. I think one really good change for Wattson that would make her a lot more fun to play is to be able to toggle her pylons on or off. This would catch more people off guard, and it wouldn't be as obvious to the enemy when they're approaching a building that a Wattson has a ton of traps set up in there. We do know from Respawn that they're working on ways to make Wattson a little bit more fun to play, and I think this is definitely a good first step to take. Now, let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of these buff concepts. If there's anyone else that you can think of or a change that you think would be really good for that specific legend, let me know down in the comments below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. But anyways, thank you guys for watching today's video. I will see you guys all next time. Have a great day. Peace out.